Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us this evening. This is John. I am the event coordinator at Murder by the Book here in Houston, and I'm so excited for tonight's event. But before we get started, I just wanted to give everybody a couple of general announcements about what's going on in the store. So if you have not come to visit us in a while, we have been open since October for in-store browsing, so you can come visit us. We're still limiting it to 6 people in the store at a time just because it's a small space. I'm sure in the next couple of weeks, we will probably adjust that a little bit with the new CDC regulations. But even with those, we're still asking everybody to please wear a mask when you come in. As many of you know, with us being in Houston, so close to the medical center, we do have a lot of immunocompromised people that come in that are getting treatment at MD Anderson. And we just want to make sure that everybody feels comfortable in the space. So we hope that you will continue to mask up when you come to visit us. But please come visit us. We know not everybody is getting out and about just yet. So if you are still doing curbside pickup, if you want to do that, just give us a call when you pull up. We used to have a table where we would set your books outside. We're not putting the table out anymore, mostly because we're lazy booksellers and generally forget that the table is outside. So inevitably we would set the alarm, walk out the door to lock up and realize there was a table in there and try to scramble to get it in before the alarm went off. So just give us a call when you pull up and we are happy to run books out to the parking lot for you. We've got lots of great stuff coming up. So if you have not checked out murderbooks.com lately, we've got a bunch of virtual events. We have done over 200 of these with over 350 authors since the pandemic started. So those are all up for watching on our Facebook and our YouTube channel. Next Monday, we're going to be doing another Agora and Polis event. Next Thursday, we're super excited. We're going to be chatting with May Cobb about her new book, The Hunting Wives, which comes out Tuesday. And another great Texas author, Amy Gentry, is going to be in conversation with her. So we hope that you guys will check that out. Also, when you're perusing the website, make sure you check out the signed book and signed personalized pages because we just confirmed a lot of really cool signed stuff. And also a general disclaimer, we haven't had any issues in a couple of days, but sometimes when we do our virtual events, especially on Facebook, we will get some spammers pop up and post links asking you to click away from the event to go somewhere else to put in your credit card info to watch the event. You don't have to do that. The event is free to watch. You are watching it already, so you don't have to click away to give somebody your credit card info to watch something that is out already. If any of those pop up, I will block them as I see them, but sometimes I just want to make sure you guys don't click on them before I can get to them. As I said, I'm so excited for tonight's event. R.H. Herron, Rachel Herron, is one of my favorite people in the world. As we were talking before, she has come and stayed at my house when she was in town. I visited her out in San Francisco with her wife and everybody that lives out there. So I'm so excited that we're doing this. If you guys have not read Hush Little Baby yet, you are in for a ride. It is a nail biter. It's twisty. It's so fantastic. And we're super excited to have Sara Shepard to be chatting with us this evening. So I'm going to bring them out. I'm going to start with Rachel. How are you tonight, Rachel?
I'm so thrilled to see you. I would really, really like to give you a hug, but this will do. Are you in the downstairs bedroom where I sleep?
No, I am actually I'm in our in the library in the computer room that we just repainted and just got new bookcases. So it's all
looks beautiful. Thank you. By the way,
pro tip: don't remodel a room in your house when you're serving on jury duty in the middle of a pandemic because it's exhausting. Don't do it.
I cannot even imagine. Good for you. Well, it looks great.
Thanks. Congratulations on the new book, Hush Little Baby. It just came out yesterday. So for anybody who is watching, if you pre-order if you order the book from us, Rachel will send you a signed bookplate. So when you order, when I send you your order confirmation, I will send you her email address so she can get in touch with you. And if you want it personalized, let her know. But so if anybody is tuning in and doesn't know Rachel, aka R.H. Herron, she received her MFA in writing from Mills College, Oakland. She's the author of the thrillers Stolen Things and this new one, Hush Little Baby, as well as the best-selling author of more than 24 books under a different name. She lives and teaches in California. And as I said, we're super excited to have Sara Shepard with us this evening. I'm going to bring her out. How are you tonight, Sara?
Hi, I'm good. Hello.
Thanks so much for doing this with us.
I'm so happy to be here.
So Sara Shepard is the #1 New York Times bestselling author of the Pretty Little Liars series, the Lying Game series, the Heiress, the Elizas, the Perfectionists series, and Reputation, which is her most recent. We have copies of both authors' books in store. So if you want to order those, you can do that at murderbooks.com. I'm going to drop a link in the comments in just a second so you can get more information about them. And I'm going to turn this over to Sara in just a second. But before I do, if you guys have any questions while she and Rachel are talking, please, please, please post those in the comments on Facebook and YouTube. I will be collecting those while I'm listening to them chat, and I will pop back in just a little bit to relay those. So Sara, I'm going to turn it over to you. You guys have fun, and I will see you in just a little bit.
Thank you, John.
All right. Thank you. Hi, how are you?
Hi, Sarah. It's so nice to meet you in person. We were kind of saying a little bit backstage that we have a mutual bestie
We do.
in Carrie Luna, who is an
Yes.
amazing writer and wrote The Revolution of Every Day. And she said she's here tonight, so shout out to Carrie.
Hi, Karen.
I know, but because of that, you and I go back like maybe almost 20 years.
Yeah. So it's so funny because when I got the request to be in this event, which I was really excited about, I was like, I know that name. Why do I know the name R.H. Herron? And I think I know the other name that you published under, but I really knew you from the days of blogging, and we both used to be really into knitting. You probably were a more talented knitter than I was. I just made stuff, but I feel like you designed patterns and like.
I designed 4 patterns, and they were so broken. They were
really.
They were not good.
I don't know if
patterns.
I made them. I think. Did you do a lot of socks?
I always had socks on the go.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe that's.
And I still do. Maybe that's one of the few things that have stuck around.
Yeah.
Do you think that, I know we're already like in the weeds now, but do you think that as we get more and more into writing, that kind of scratched that itch for creation? I wonder that myself.
You know what I think has happened with knitting is my phone, unfortunately.
Oh yeah.
So knitting used to be my thing, where at night would watch TV. I wish I could have done it reading, and I never was able to turn the page and still knit. So I would always be watching TV. And it was sort of my thing to do with my hands while I was watching a show. But now, unfortunately, our phones are so much more part of our lives. This is the knitting I'm talking about. This was in 2006, 2007. So smartphones weren't as big of a thing.
Yeah.
FaceTime, or not FaceTime, Facebook, all the social media stuff, instant. I don't think I even had email on my phone, any of that stuff. So I just didn't look at it all the time. So now I'm just looking at it all the time. So it's kind of oh yeah, I guess I could knit right now, but I'm playing this game on my phone, or doing a crossword on my phone, or doing whatever. And it just feels too much to use my fingers in it.
It always comes down to dopamine hits, right? What is going to give you a bigger dopamine hit? I talk about this with my students a lot. Is is it going to feel better to knit or to write words that are not coming easily, or just to eat ice cream and watch Netflix? I want to, or to look at TikTok.
Yeah.
The TikTok is the dopamine explosions. Are you on the TikTok yet?
Yeah, no, I like the TikTok. I am not a TikToker. I don't do my own TikTok videos, but I enjoy TikTok. Yeah,
I do enjoy.
I do. I watch a lot of dogs on TikTok. I mean, TikTok's fun because it's just so mindless, and it's not like Instagram where you look through Instagram and you feel a little bit. I generally feel a little bit terrible about myself a lot of the time. So I'm just I can't do that anymore. But so I think the bottom line is I would love to get back into knitting because I would love not to be on my phone so much. But it's a hard habit to break.
Okay.
So anyway,
get back to me on it.
Yeah. That is how I knew who you were, and I knew that you were a talented writer, even in your knitting blogs. So I was so excited when I found out that you had moved into the thriller world. But I am curious how that happened. What is the progression of how, because you started out kind of writing romantic stories.
Yeah. Women's fiction romance is where I started. And it was Knitlit.
Yes.
My first book was, How to Knit a Love Song. And that turned into a 5-book series. And then I wrote a knitting memoir. And so I was definitely in the knit world really, really, really hard. But honest to God, I ran out of things to write about when it came to knitting. I'm re-releasing Life in Stitches, like the 10th anniversary edition, and I'm adding a couple of essays, and I'm putting these essays into the book, and I'm like, oh yeah, I only have about 2 more essays in me. Like I otherwise I would be scratching the bottom of the barrel. So then I was reaching out looking for other things, and I did 3 or 4 kind of family women's fiction, a little bit darker themes, a little bit heavier.
Mm-hmm.
They did not sell well, although they were really, really books of my heart.
Right.
So I kind of, bombed in that industry. But what I was reading was thrillers. I've always read thrillers. I'm not as big a solid, mystery person. I am a thriller person. I want to be scared. I want to, and I really want to be inside. I kind of want the women's fiction mash up with thriller. I love domestic thriller. I love being in the family, looking at that kind of structure. And how I got into it was how did I get into it? I came up with an idea. Oh, my agent, hello, Susanna, if you're watching, she made me write the whole thing, as she does. And then, and what I did was I wrote a mainstream contemporary, more on the women's fiction side novel that was really full of emotion and connection and heart, because that's what comes out of my fingers when I write. And she just kept saying, make it scarier, make it faster. All of my beautiful prose,
right.
like all of the sentences that just sang, I swear to God, she would just like, nope, this is beautiful, but it's gotta go. Just get faster. And so that was Stolen Things. And then I had a contract for the second book, and my editor did the same thing. So what I do is I tend to write the same kind of book, and then I speed it up. Then I add the gasoline and match, and I light it on fire after I've written the first couple of crappy drafts.
Okay. Oh, that's interesting. Because the way it starts, I mean, it starts in a really scary place, but even the first chapter, you can tell that something is a little bit off. You can tell immediately. So that was not an early draft, or because there's also a lot of character development. Yeah, I mean,
I think my strength is character development. I think character development and the interactions between characters. That's what I really love to spend time in. Yeah. But I can definitely spend too much time in it. I can just drag it on forever. I could live. The kitchen table scenes are just my absolute crutch, and I always have to write them and then nix them. But yeah, that one I really, and even I just got somebody who added me on Instagram, and she left the best review in her Bookstagram, and it said something like, this was a slow build up until the midpoint, and then oh my God, like the roller coaster came off the tracks, and it was. I think she said, and the banana peels, they just went banana pants sideways, and she just loved it. But the words that she used was kind of the way I felt when I was writing it too. I was like, build, stab. Yes. Not that there's a lot of stabbing. There's not a lot of, well, there is a little bit, but yeah. So that's how I got into it, and I really love reading it. And I know we're talking about my book today, but can we talk about your book real quick? Because I just read Reputation, and I enjoyed it so much.
Oh, thank you.
So you do this incredible job of always, okay, and I want to actually talk about craft with you, because I think one of the things that I'm always struggling with a little bit is the twist. And you had so many twists in that book. I always thought I knew what was going to happen next, and then you always yanked the rug out from under me. Is that something that comes naturally to you? Can I learn it? How do I learn it?
Oh my gosh. I feel like with almost all of my books, I start out thinking it's going to be one twist, and then I'm like, that twist is amazing. And then as I'm writing to that, I'm in the middle of this actually right now with something that I'm working on, where I'm like, thought I knew the end, and then I'm like, no, that's not the end. So I feel like, no, I mean, I think I come to them as I'm writing, and sometimes even like in later drafts.
Okay, that makes it so much better.
Yeah, no, kind of the same in the same way. I mean, I can't, especially like Reputation, I feel like the sort of person who did it, not to give anything away, but like I feel like that was a different person, maybe in earlier drafts. And I feel like with everyone, I mean, I worked on a YA series and a series years ago where, you know, I think I wrote a whole first book of the series thinking it was going to be the bad guy was like somebody different. And then I was like, oh God, I hope it still works, because there were 6 more books or something that I had to do. But it did. But so no, I think I have a general idea, and I sort of work towards that. But yeah, I mean, I do try to think of a lot of twists, but it is not it does not kind of flow out of me super easily. But I like doing it, and it's fun to think up really crazy things. But sometimes I have to pull back, because it's like, my problem is that I get a little overcomplicated. Like your problem is writing too many kitchen table scenes. I write in way too much complication. So I always have to kind of simplify. There's like way too many steps to, or maybe things that just like aren't plausible, or
I love that though. And I like, I really love it when, exactly what you're saying is when you think you know what you're doing in a book. And then you get to where, usually I get close to where I think I'm going. And then something smacks me in the head and surprises me. And if I get that knee-jerk jolt of, oh, I can't do that, then that's usually the answer, or sometimes the answer.
Yeah. No, like I'm writing something now where I thought I was going in a direction, and then I just was like, this is not working. And I don't know if this happens to you, but I was really cranky about it for a few days, because you kind of panic, because if you have a contract for a book, you know, you're like, oh my God, I have to hand something in. But then I think I figured it out, and it's kind of satisfying to figure it out, you know, but especially with thrillers, there's a lot of figuring out.
There's so much figuring out. Honestly, it takes a lot of time, and sometimes I have to draw myself diagrams of, if this then that, and she is over here at this point, so this can't happen, and I've forgotten about that person, and I have just worked my way into a hole. And I wish that I plotted more, but I try my best, but it just all the plans always go to the side.
Yeah. So you are not really a plotter.
I'm a wannabe plotter. Yeah. I'm in the hotel, like I told you about, and they have these little bottles of water. Uh-huh. And doesn't this make you feel like you're at a book signing? Like, don't you?
I love it. Yes.
I was like, I'm going to drink this during the book launch. Plotter. I usually know the inciting incident, the midpoint, and I sometimes have a glimmer of the dark moment, and then I write towards those places in the Elmore Leonard, you know, drive as far as you can see with your headlights. I have tried to do very detailed outlines, and it's like my brain says, thank you for spending 2 weeks doing that detailed outline, and we're putting it in the trash now because you did a bad job. Yeah. So
yeah, for a lot of my YA stuff, I would write really detailed outlines, and it was nice. It was good to have the roadmap. But I feel like even so, it still didn't end up what the outline was. Because you just have to kind of get in there and know and see what these characters want. And I don't know. Yeah. But I love your main character. Back to Hush Little Baby. She's in a very interesting predicament. And I feel like your publicist told me that you kind of were inspired as a ambulance dispatcher,
like 911 dispatcher.
911, not an ambulance dispatcher. 911 dispatcher.
Well, I also dispatch ambulances, so yes, that was included.
Which like sounds so fascinating. I feel like that would be great research as a thriller writer. I'm sure you heard all kinds of interesting stories. And is that true? And can you talk a little bit about
Yeah. So when I got my master's in creative writing, I saw all my friends going into writing and then not writing.
Right.
Also, I had spent a lot of money on this diploma and I had a lot of debt, and all of the freeway flying teaching jobs that I taught for a very, very short amount of time and realized that I couldn't live in the Bay Area on $19,000 a year. So I decided to become a 911 dispatcher because I saw it in a trade magazine of jobs when I was looking to try to get a truck driving job. I just wanted something that was absolutely divorced from writing in all the ways. And I had this really selfish, very selfish thought that was, I bet 911 could give me a great view, a great window into the human condition. And I was completely right. And I feel like between 911 and all the stories I heard over 17 years of doing that, and People magazine, like, I'll have all the story ideas I ever need for life.
Yeah, no, that is so that's so lucky. Well, not lucky, but like I remember being in grad school and one of our teachers being like, the best thing that you can do as a writer is go and have some other job, like get some other experience.
Which is so offensive when you hear it.
Yeah, like, I didn't take that advice, but
I actually had my very favorite professor of all time sat me down in his office and said, Rachel, you are a really, really talented writer. And then he said two things. He says, I don't know if you have the discipline to be a writer. And then he said, and I just don't think you've lived enough. You need to get out there and have a life. And I was like, screw you.
Yeah.
And he's still a friend of mine and I love him. But I always send him a copy of my books.
Yeah. Hey, look. Yeah. Didn't think I had the discipline.
I did have to learn the discipline. So yeah.
Yeah. Although maybe that was inspired. That was to kind of inspire you, like
he even admitted as much. Yeah. But so for this particular book, there was and I don't want to spoil anything, but there was something that Jillian, the main character, she is a pregnant OBGYN. There's something that she witnesses in the hospital I think it's right around the 30 or 40% mark. But she witnesses something happen in the hospital that I had never known could happen for real. And it blew my mind, and it really never left me. And there's a bunch of those kind of 911 stories that kind of got stuck in my psyche and seared into my soul, and they'll eventually, some of them have worked their way out, and some of them maybe won't. But the thing about being a dispatcher is, I got out of the policing industry because I didn't want to be there, but I spent the majority of my time with fire and medical, and every 911 call, you're hearing the very first few seconds of the worst day of a person's life.
Oh yeah.
And if you get lucky, you get to, give them the instructions to do the CPR that saves the person. But most of the time, because of very valid and good and sturdy HIPAA laws, you never know what happens. Like, you hang up, the baby might or might not be breathing. The paramedics swoop in, rip the baby out of the child's arms and run toward the ambulance. And then I'm going to eat my oatmeal and pick up the phone and talk to somebody about their beeping smoke detector, an old lady who wants us to come over and change her batteries, which in fact the fire department will do if that wheel is squeaky enough. So exactly. So I have thousands and thousands, tens of thousands of unfinished stories in my head that every once in a while I pull out and finish one fictionally. I just make up an ending for it.
Yeah. I never thought about that you wouldn't know, and you never found out the end of most of these.
Most of them, interestingly, there's a lot of, the baby thing was mentioned on purpose because there's more sympathy and empathy around a baby. Like, I remember one time I got this call of a man whose voice was just shaking, and he was at South Shore Center in Alameda, and he was a person who likes to look in trash cans and trash bags to see if there's anything valuable inside, and he had found this paper grocery sack with the top folded over in the parking lot, like in the driving lane, and he peeked into it, and it had a baby inside who had just been born.
Oh my God.
And and the baby stories like we'll bend the HIPAA rules a little bit. Like I know that when she was at Children's Hospital, they had, this is such an incredible detail that's never made it into a book yet, but they had 2 glass jars and they had different words in them, just slips of paper holding different words. And when the nurses would get a baby, an abandoned baby in the hospital, they would pull one slip and the other slip, and that would be the baby's name until she got adopted. And this baby's name was Tennis 4. And I have never forgotten Tennis 4. And we knew that Tennis 4 was, I knew that she was hypothermic. I knew they got her warmed up, and I knew that she got adopted. And you know, I assumed that she got adopted, but she was healthy and strong. So the baby stuff gets back to you. But yeah, otherwise dispatchers just have to live with a lot of uncertainty. And as a writer, we like certainty. You know, we like to make up that certainty.
Yeah. Was it hard emotionally? I mean, it had to be, right? I mean,
it was almost never hard emotionally. Not that I noticed. I know that it took me about 3 or 4 years after I stopped doing that job and went full-time writing to actually be able to sleep through the night, just because it was like for the last 5 years of my career, I lived in the firehouse. And when 911 rang, if I was taking a sleep break, I was paged up. So there was just never a time that your adrenaline would go down. So that was hard. And there were probably 4 or 5 stories that really shook me up. But otherwise it was really just all in a day's work, and you learn how to completely compartmentalize and then eat your oatmeal.
Oh my gosh, and then eat your oatmeal. Is there a lot of training? It's all about being the dispatcher. It's
about six months to a year of basically on the job training where you're plugged in with a senior dispatcher, and one day they just say, okay, now you talk. And your first time you say 911 emergency, what's the address of the emergency? And then they say something insane, and your trainer just shoves you out of the way. She's just used to pushing your chair out of the way and taking over the call, because, you know, if you hear that somebody has just been shot, you forget what the next question should be.
Right. Sure. Oh yeah. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
But I guess you learn to be cool under pressure. But
and it was also great because like we had to stay up all night. Most of the time I worked midnights for those 17 years, and dispatchers get paid to stay awake when it's quiet. They don't get paid to clean or to make things or whatever. And most of my coworkers would watch TV, or they would read books and magazines, or they would, cross stitch or knit. And I would write.
Nice.
So
Yeah.
I would sneak that writing time in while I was on the clock. And so it was a really good job for that too.
Yeah. Yeah. I just feel like, you're just so lucky to have all these little experiences, especially after the last year. I feel like after the last year, I mean, just being stuck in our houses, like, what does anybody have to write about? Like, it was the same day again. Completely uninspiring, but no, that is very, very cool. But back to your character. I mean, I really just love your characters, and as we were saying before, I just got the book, I think like Monday or Tuesday or something, so I'm not finished. But I just love that, you dive so deeply into the characters right away. I mean, and there are like a lot of stakes. I mean, there's sort of obviously she's pregnant, and it's this awkward situation.
That's a really good way of putting it.
Yeah, and I don't know how much I want to give away. But
I think it's on the back of the book.
Okay.
That she is pregnant with her
ex-wife's biological child. Yeah. Which, again, like I was saying before we got on, like it has all the elements of things that I love. And I just like love relationships things and like sort of relationships when they go wrong and like being in these predicaments. And, I love also reading about motherhood. I am a mom. But like the not so pretty parts of motherhood and like the moms that admit like, oh God, do I even want to do this? Like, I don't know.
That's really at the core of the story for a lot of it. Yeah.
Yeah. And where did that come from? Or did that just sort of come from,
it was one of those, and it kind of goes back to what we were talking about before. Like you start writing the book one way, and I think I always, and a lot of us do this, I'm sure. We go toward the obvious. We think it's original and unique, and then by the time we get there, we're like, well, that was obvious. So we have to do something else. And I'm pretty damn sure that when I started writing the book, she and her wife were pregnant, and I think it was her biological child, our main character's biological child, and then her wife leaves her, and that's interesting. That's fine, whatever. That happens every day. But I was trying to deal with her ex-wife's possession of this child, and I actually called an attorney down south who does California law for gay couples who break up when they're pregnant, which apparently is a thing. I didn't know. But I thought, what is Jillian, our main character's ex-wife? What are her rights? Mm-hmm. And I thought that was interesting. But what way more interesting is, what if this is not even biologically her child? What rights does Jillian, our main character, have now? Right. If her wife has left her I think she leaves her 4 or 5 months into the pregnancy.
Right.
And what are those rights? And it was so funny. You'll appreciate this, Sarah, that like I called a bunch of places trying to talk to a lawyer for free, because I didn't want to pay for this kind of advice. I was just trying to get somebody on the back. I just had like basically one question: would this fly? And I only got one lawyer to call me back, but he was a writer, and he spoke for 45 minutes, and he picked my brain about, self-publishing and what he should do with this book. And then he sent me a copy of his book when it published, and it was fantastic.
Oh, that's awesome.
So it was one of those like really fun research times.
Yeah, I feel like whenever I have tried to reach out to lawyers with usually with legal questions with, murderers or whatever. Yeah. The responses I get are so unhelpful, or just I get no response. Yeah. But,
I think no response, but this guy was super excited. Kind of the opposite when you reach out to other professions. When you do, what has been the most interesting research person that you've ever talked to?
Oh my goodness. I mean, my father-in-law used to work in law enforcement, so that's been interesting. He's just been a great person to talk to because, be like, so in an investigation, like how, if they have a suspect, do they like look for other suspects, or like they're pretty happy just with that one suspect? And he's like, no, usually they're pretty happy with that one. But so, I'll ask him about, certain protocols and whatever. And I remember he took me along on a training in case there was a terrorist attack or something like that, which is like, I live in Pittsburgh. And this was like in the suburbs of Pittsburgh. It was like the terrorist attack was taking place at a playground, but they had like SWAT teams. It was really neat. I mean, they had a helicopter landing, and he was super excited to have me along. And I'm trying to arrange like a ride along, but it hasn't happened yet.
There's something you should be aware of called the curse of the ride along, which is basically if you were on a ride along, nothing will happen. Yeah, and you'll spend 7 hours in the car, and then as soon as you get in your car, there's a pursuit and a shooting.
Right. I figured nothing would happen, but at least I'd like get the vibe of like, okay, this is what it's like. I don't know. Yeah. Because for me, I kind of have to. Well, I mean, not in every situation, because I've written about some pretty crazy things, but like, it's better if I'm kind of experiencing the thing along with whatever it is that's. Yeah. But that said, I've written about some pretty crazy things. I would say that's the most interesting. I've definitely talked to, interesting people in different fields, but like, I don't know if I have ever, there are things that I think I feel like I should do. Like my next book is about sort of an intentional, I think, what are they called? Intentional communities, basically like a commune. But I don't think that's what they're called anymore.
It's already signed me up for that because
I'm like, really what I should do is I should go down there and stay for a few days, and maybe I will. So that would definitely be probably the most interesting. But what if I get kidnapped or something and then I won't come home? No, I don't think that will happen.
Research is just something that is so fun to do as a writer. And again, it's one of those things that I always do at the end of my books because
Me too.
I don't want to get because you
placeholders.
There are placeholders, absolutely.
Yeah,
placeholders.
yeah.
But I remember one time I was my favorite was at a crematorium that I went to because I needed to see what happened behind the scenes. Yeah. And this guy just did not care. He showed me everything. He told me all the secrets. He told me all the things that have gone wrong. It was the best. It was the best.
That is cool. No, research, it is fun. And again, like this year, I just feel like we weren't able to do anything. Although when I started out, I mean, the internet has come so far, and like YouTube. I remember for a book I was working on years ago, I was trying to look up old commercials from the 70s and 80s. And now like you just put that into YouTube and you can find anything. So, so it has made research for writers way, way, way easier. So the other thing that I wanted to talk about is that this is Jillian is, well, she's not with her wife. It's her wife, right?
Yeah.
They were married. Okay. Yeah. Her wife anymore. And I just loved that this was a same-sex couple. And I feel like so many thrillers that I read, it's like the perfect marriage, the perfect husband. Not to knock any of those. They're all very heteronormative and, you know, very, it was just really nice to read, like, because I don't know, I just feel like it obviously, of course, these people, everybody is going through, you know, creepy things or struggling things, but I just wonder why there's not more, you know, representation.
I don't know. It's something that I have wondered too, but I've got to confess this to you, and it is something that I have forgotten until this moment. So Stolen Things came out, and also with Dutton, and it was pretty political. It was talking about police brutality, blah, blah, blah. And I know that perhaps I wasn't going to do as political a book the next time, just to, you know.
Yeah.
So I just remember that I wrote this as a straight couple on the first one. And then it just wasn't working. And it was so boring. And it was so heteronormative. And I just did not care about this absolute jerk of a guy who was completely a cardboard cutout for the cheating husband leaving his pregnant wife.
Yes.
So I just shot an email to my editor, Stephanie, and I said, could I make this the same sex? And for some reason, I'm stuck in 2002 in my head, right? And I was expecting her to say, well, you know, it just really might hurt the sales, blah, blah, blah. She's like, no, do it. That sounds great. And then I got really excited because this whole book is about women. It's about women. It's stuffed with women. There's like one guy, I think, and I don't even remember who it was, but that was really, really, really fun for me. And I got to, you know, we put ourselves into all the books we write. And I obviously wasn't writing about myself in any way, shape, or form. But I did get to make her queer, and she's my first major queer, maybe my second major queer character. And also I got to talk about addiction because she's
That's right. That was gonna be my other question.
Yeah, she's a recovering alcoholic, which I am. And what I wanted to show was just somebody living their life as a recovering alcoholic, not somebody in the gutter, not somebody coming up out of the gutter, not somebody who thinks about alcohol every minute of the day, because I don't. I just live my life. However, I will say today, as we said beforehand, like today, the floors are going into our house as we get ready to move to New Zealand. I'm staying in a hotel. I was doing my makeup in the bathroom mirror, realizing I couldn't see to do my eyeliner because I didn't bring the right glasses. And I was like, yeah, a drink would be really good right now.
Yeah.
And then, you know, and it runs through me and then it's gone and the craving is gone. And it takes, 14 seconds or something like that. But I wanted to show Jillian, like me, just having an absolutely damn normal life and also going to some recovery meetings.
Yeah. And I love that because it's kind of in one of the really early chapters. And it's just sort of like, we're at the meeting house and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, wait, did she mention this earlier? And I kind of went back and I was like, no, she did. And I was like, okay. And it just wasn't like a big thing. Yeah, it wasn't, it didn't hit you over the head. But it also, And again, like I'm not that far into the novel, so I don't know what the stakes are going to be. I don't know if this is going to be something that's going to come up later.
It might not. No
yeah,
spoilers.
but it felt like another layer of like holding herself accountable and like another, you know, kind of thing she was struggling with. Like not really, but you know, another layer. And I think that's sort of the character building, and that this is just another, you know, thing that makes her very real and, you know, authentic and just feels like, yeah, just like a real person. But, and again, like with, you know, that it is her wife and that it is her, you know, her wife's biological child, like that just made it so much more interesting to me. Versus if it would have just been a straight couple and they had just split up and it was just a battle over who's, you know, the typical like custody of the baby once the baby is born. I think like added this interesting layer of complication that I hadn't thought about before.
Thank you for saying that. That really means a lot to me. We have to, for me, I have to write the easy first and then I have to go back and layer it because sometimes I'm just not smart enough to build the complexity in. I have to get to know these characters and I have to get to know this story before I actually can start to be really creative about it, which is why I love revision so much. Revision is where, for me, all the magic of writing is.
Yeah. Oh, me too. Yeah.
Yay.
I love revision. I do not like first drafts. Yeah. They're pretty, they're, even if you have an outline, it's still like, oh, yeah. And everybody's like, it must be so fun to be a writer. Like, oh, you're just I'm like, it's not fun every day. It's a great thing. Believe me.
It's the best. It's like the best job in the whole world, but it is not easy. It's not for the faint of heart, but it's so much fun. I feel like I want to take a moment and then maybe we can bring John back, but I want to just say for people listening that to reiterate that if you buy Hush Little Baby from Murder by the Book, which you should, I will send you a bloody book plate. It's the coolest book plate, Sarah. They like have blood dripping on it. It's the coolest. But I also wanted to say, if anybody buys any book, including Sarah's incredible reputation, I will also send you something in the mail, maybe a book plate to stick inside a different book. That would be fun. Oh. Why don't you do that? So if you do that, I want to say, if you buy a book, any book from Murder by the Book tonight, please let John know, and then he'll send me your email. And that would be cool. And can I say one more thing about shopping? What is your indie bookstore where you live in Pittsburgh?
It's called the Penguin. Well, there's a few. There's one called White Whale, and then there's, I think it's called White Whale. God, yes,
that's a great name.
I had a mind block. I think that's. Oh my God, I haven't been there in a year. Then the other one that I do most of my events at is called the Penguin Bookshop, and it is in Sewickley, Pennsylvania, and it is lovely, and they are also online. And I have a book actually coming out in July that I think I will be doing an event with them. So
isn't it cool though to be doing these events online? Like seriously, I'm going to go swimming after this. I'm going to take all this stuff, nice. And like that's amazing
to not have to fly around and
we get to have people listening from all over.
Yeah, I love that. I feel like it's fun and I feel like a lot of people who wouldn't have gotten to be at an event because I don't go to a bookstore in their town or whatever, like right. And that's like, I love that. That has been sort of a bright spot in doing a book tour.
Yeah. And that is, and I know I'm shilling here, but I love Murder by the Book. And sometimes I will call and ask to talk to Sally, not even John, who is my dear, dear, dear friend, but Sally and I have the same reading sensibility. And I'll just say, Sally, I need $50 worth of books. Give me the scariest stuff you've got. And she just puts it in the mail for me. So people buy a book from Murder by the Book. It's the best.
Oh my gosh.
I know, it's crazy.
Sally needs to do a little, like a book club or something, right? Like Sally's Picks. I love it.
Sallow Picks. I'm in.
I love Houston. My husband is from there. So now next time we go, I'm going to have to go to Murder by the Book because this is very exciting.
I love Houston because John and Matt are there. Like literally they showed me around. They're the ones who showed me what an amazing town Houston is.
Yeah. Good food.
Yes, the best food.
Such good food. Oh my goodness. I have one more question about your teaching. Tell me, what is, who do you teach? And just, I'd love to hear about that because I do not teach.
I teach the novel in the extension workshop at UC Berkeley, and I teach memoir usually for a full semester at Stanford in the fall, although all of that was going online and I didn't want to do it. And now what I really do is I teach my own classes. I teach a 90 days to done course where I take people through a terrible first draft. I take them through it and I, hold their hands while they write this terrible first draft of a novel, which we all have to do. And then I take the 90-day revision because I really believe in putting boxes of time around things. Otherwise, people end up taking 5, 7, 9, 15 years to write a book. And they're not going to get a perfect book out of those times, but they get that. And so that's what I'm teaching right now. And it's like, it's the light of my life, Sarah. Why don't you do you want to teach?
Yeah, I think it would be nice.
It's like
we have a lot of colleges near
thing.
me. Yeah, I just need to kind of look into it.
Well, I have a friend, Nicole Peeler. Do you know Nicole?
No.
She is the dean at Seton Hill of the commercial fiction MFA. So if you ever want to hook up over there,
yeah, maybe that would be amazing. No, I just I don't know. I have done a little bit of high school workshops and things like that, and it's just really rewarding to work with young writers or not young writers, just people who.
Sometimes I think to myself, like, what do I like better? Do I like writing more or do I like teaching more? And teaching sometimes wants to trump writing, and I don't let it. I actually started tracking my hours this last year in 2020 because I was getting concerned that I was spending more time teaching than I was writing. Yeah. And I wasn't. I proved to myself that I was writing more than I was teaching, but I was close to allowing it to take over me because it's the most rewarding thing I do is to watch people finish books. Yeah. And then I have a shelf now at home where my students' books are lined up.
Oh, that's amazing.
It's one of the few things that's going to New Zealand with us.
Oh, good. What are you working on next, by the way, besides moving to New Zealand?
I am working on a bunch of stuff, but right now I'm working on another thriller idea, which is so scary that my wife will not let me talk about it with her. Period. She will not let me talk about it. Really, nobody knows what it's about yet. And also a very light kind of funny, the basis is, the premise is Marie Kondo wants her stuff back. Although it's not about Marie Kondo. But see, everybody does that. She regrets. She has regrets.
Oh, so cute. I love it.
That's what I'm playing with both of those ideas right now.
Yeah, that's so fun.
Yeah.
Do we want to check in with questions?
Yeah, let's check in and see what John says. Hi, John.
Hello.
Oh, but you're still on mute, John.
I always forget to unmute myself when I come back in, which I should know by now. I've done like 400 of these. I should know that. You guys have done a really great job of actually hitting a lot of the questions that have come up. So I wanted to throw in a few things. So I've been dropping links in the comments as they were talking about independent bookstores. If you guys don't have an indie near you or you're looking for one, I dropped a link for indiebound.com. You can go there. You put in your zip code. They will find you the nearest bookstore. We also, I didn't mention this when we were doing the intro, but we also recently started a subscription box service. So we
do have one.
We do. So we have three different options. One of them is just a kind of best of the month where we pick, it could be any subgenre of thriller. We pick something. And if you sign up for that one, you get it's one hardback a month and you get a book club style Zoom with the author. And we try to get signed books or book plates. The other one is a crime fiction classics where we pick 2 trade paperback mysteries that we think somehow go together. Last month we did Arthur Conan Doyle because we know a lot of people have not read Sherlock, and an early kind of American Sherlock. And then the third one, which is my favorite, is John's Cozy Corner. So if you want me to pick out a specific cozy mystery for you, we also have a Cozy Corner one, and they're available for mailing or pickup. And you can do 3 months, you can do 12 years. So I have also dropped links to that in the comments if anybody's
interested. I love that.
Oh my gosh,
so much.
I'm going to sign up.
That is so cool. Thank you, John.
It's been so much fun doing it. You know, other stores have done it for years, and we finally got our butts in gear and we were able to do it. So Sarah, so Rachel told us what she is working on next. What do you have coming up? You said you got something out in July?
I do. And now I'm like, can I get down to Houston and like, and like sign book plates that are bleeding. I have a book coming out called Safe in My Arms. It is a thriller. It is about this sort of very prestigious nursery school, again, about mothers. And there are sort of these three mothers who link up. They're very much outliers in the community. They feel like they are kind of being pushed out. And they don't really fit in, and they kind of find themselves in this predicament. Of course, secrets are exposed, and there are twists and turns and fun things like that. So, it does feel like it was more. This book is more about certain issues, I think, that where you're like, I did not want to write so much of a political book. It's not a political book at all, but it has. It talks about like, a lot of like postpartum issues that are ignored, and like just kind of things like that, where I just thought like, what are some interesting aspects of motherhood that we don't really think about?
That's so awesome.
Yeah. So that is out. I feel terrible because I don't know the precise date that it's out. July
27th.
Oh, perfect.
There you go.
July 27th. So right in the middle of summer. But yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, excited.
It's a great title too.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. I am not a title person, but I actually came up with that one.
That's your title. Wow.
That is my title. Yeah, I usually don't do my titles.
I don't either.
But
I do my titles, but they're always rejected.
Yeah. Usually
they're not good.
No, this doesn't work.
Yeah.
And actually, they said that about this one, about Safe in My Arms, and I was like, no, I really like it. And
I love it.
Yeah. And I'm like, no, with like a dark, spooky cover. They're like, like, no, you don't get it. So I
Safe in My Arms and Hush Little Baby would look good next to each other.
They would. Yeah. All right.
So Rachel, lots of people are saying that they hope that once you get to New Zealand that you will do a writing workshop. And they said, even if you don't, you're going to have them just randomly showing up on your doorstep.
Absolutely. And I am planning on doing some kind of writing retreat. I think that's a crazy long way to go to a writing retreat, but I will handle it and we will do it.
Oh, that'd be amazing.
Yeah. I used to lead them in Venice a lot, and I probably will start that again, but 2020 really burned me with the Barcelona trip. Whew. I'm not recovered yet from leading retreats and having them canceled.
So for both of you, Mindy wants to know, when do you do any of the necessary research for your writing process? Do you do it before you get started, or are you researching as you're writing?
I'm researching after I write. like we mentioned, I place placeholders. Sometimes I'll do like a quick Wikipedia kind of thing.
Yeah.
But otherwise I'll get lost. I mean, the danger is always getting lost in research, and then for me, it's getting too concerned. Like, well, am I doing this right or wrong? Honestly. So Jillian is a doctor, and I know that to write a doctor, number one, I need to have doctors read it. I had a couple doctors and a midwife, nurse midwife read it, and they gave me all the verbiage. And as long as you can get like 6 or 7 really convincing, very technical sentences out, your reader will believe anything else.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right? Do you find that, Sarah?
True. Yeah. What you really need is an expert in the field. Yeah. To read, and they're like, no, it's fine. Yeah. Or good enough. I've had a lot of different things that have come up. One time I had to have a jeweler read. I wrote a book called The Heiresses that was a lot about diamonds, and I don't know anything about any of that. So just had a jeweler read through it, and just get kind of technical in certain moments. Yeah,
and you can just send them the parts that are relevant. They don't have to even read the whole book.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I will probably do a little research here and there just to make sure, like, as I'm writing, something makes sense, and I'm like not writing myself into a corner of like, But I mean, I can't think of an example. Usually something complicated, like a legal thing, or like, something like that, where I'm like, wait, could this happen? So I need to, certain things where I need to make sure like something will happen. But
yeah, that whole conversation I had with a lawyer about what would be legal in California.
Yeah.
That had to happen in the middle of the book because it was a complication I just introduced and I didn't know if it would work.
Yeah. Ooh, I can't wait to get there. I'm so excited.
You guys touched on this a little bit too, but Sandra says, as a queer woman, she wanted to thank you for being inclusive of the queer community in your books, which, like, just like Sarah said, Rachel, it was so nice to be able to read a queer woman who was in a relationship, who isn't now in this book, and it not be about her coming out or specific complications. You just got to be like just a lesbian living in the world as I don't want to say a normal person, but just going about their life as anybody else would. And it's really refreshing. And like you said, there's not a lot of that. Unfortunately, a lot of times in thrillers, I'm sure you both know as you read them, the second a gay character pops up, you're like, okay, this person's going to be dead by the end of the next chapter.
Well, they're going to be dead, or they're going to be the killer. Like one of the few things. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Not okay.
No.
Thank you.
No.
So you guys touched on this a little bit too, but Edward wants to know, how has the pandemic been for both of you as far as like creative output has gone?
Sarah, you go first. I'm not even sure.
The first couple months, weeks, I felt a little stuck. The thing that's been hard is like a lot of my creativity comes with being out in the world and talking to other people, or traveling, or just like being anywhere but in my house. So that was not great. That said, I still, finished a novel and wrote a proposal for a new one, and like worked on various other things, and like found the creativity somehow. Do I think it has been my most creative year? No.
Yeah.
But I got through. I also had to do a lot of homeschooling, which
And you're not a teacher. We've established that. You were not a trained teacher. You should have had to do that. Oh my God.
I can't teach children to read. I'm just like, how do you not know? Just do it. Yeah. So no.
Oh, that's funny. For me, kind of the same thing. I've always written out of the house. I love being out in the world. And same thing. I finished a book. I've gotten a lot of creative nonfiction written, and less fiction. I did finish a full draft of a book that I'm still toying with. So I guess creativity has been happening, but I just feel more fractured. I feel more pulled in more directions. I think everything is shiny maybe right now, especially now that we're hopefully starting to come out of it. I want to do everything. I want to do all the things.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Rachel, can you talk a little bit about the decision to have the book come out as R.H. Herron instead of Rachel Herron?
Yeah, that was actually from the publisher, because R.H. sounds just a little bit spookier. And also Rachel Herron with the darker family drama books had just not sold very well. So it looks better on their side at the numbers if they're launching you as a debut author, which really felt uncomfortable to me for Stolen Things, because even on the book jacket it says R.H. Herron is a debut author who lives in Northern California, and it is true that technically they call you a debut because that can help your sales. But I'm like, I'm not a debut author. It feels like a lie. I think they said that it's on the new jacket. I think it says maybe that it's a pseudonym for a author in California. But R.H. Herron is my real name because my middle name is Holly, and Rachel Herron is my real name. So I'm pretty comfortable with both. But it was actually a conversation when they were buying the book. They said, "Would you mind being initials Herron?" And I said, "I would absolutely not mind. I would love it."
I think it sounds good.
I think it does too, right?
Yeah. And it is a little spooky.
Yeah. Rachel Herron is a little bit sweet sounding.
Yeah, well, they're both good. But R.H., who's that R.H.?
Raw Herron.
So this is a great question. Emma from Melbourne is watching, and she said, Rachel, you said you go back and you like to add layers to character. What are some of your favorite ways to add richness to a character?
Oh, that's a really, really great question. In order to add richness, it's spending time with them, spending a long enough time with them that they become a full and unique character on their own. So when I write a first draft, they are cardboard cutouts, and I'm pushing them. I love, Sarah, you're laughing. Yes.
Yeah, same.
I'm just pushing them around and making them do what I want them to do. And I don't know who they are until at least the first draft, and sometimes, midway into the second draft. But after a while, they start breathing on their own and they start answering things a little bit differently. And they start standing up, and that's when it sounds a little bit woo-woo. And I can't stand it when, authors like, well, I just, the muse moves through me and the pen moves on its own. It does not for me. But the characters start to live and they start to surprise me, and I start to believe them. Maybe that's the thing, is that I am layering them. But it is their reaction to things that surprise me. And I think that makes them real, if that makes sense. What about you, Sarah?
I think it's a lot. It's the same. Yeah. It is just sort of spending time with them. I mean, I feel like often I will write pages and pages and pages just about the character that I think are going to be in the book, and then they're not. But they're useful because you're just writing about them, or writing about their past, or writing about something that happened to them 2 days ago, like whatever. And it doesn't need to be there, but it kind of does need to be there. It just says you're sort of for you. Yeah. And it's funny. So Pretty Little Liars was like 16 books, and I'm always asking my editor, my publisher, and the people that I worked with on those books, can I please do more of those? Because I know those characters so well that I don't even need to, I mean, obviously I have to think of things that can happen to them, but I know them and I know how they're going to react because that's just who they are. I've written 16 books about them.
Because they're real, they're real people now.
Yeah, they're absolutely real people. And, I wish all of my books were 16 books long, because it's that's a nice amount of time to spend with a character and to make a character real. But I think you're totally right. I think it's just spending a lot of time and putting in that time. And I mean, they are just so cardboardy when, and just details, just I just try to think, even if I'm somewhere else and I just think of that's a detail that this character, that would work for this character. And it could be the silliest thing, what kind of soda they like to drink or whatever. And I'll put it in my phone, as a note of just and just sort of keep this list of just randomness. But I feel like the more detail you can kind of fill your character with, the more real they become.
Could not agree more.
Awesome. Well, I think we are just about out of time, but I could listen to you guys forever. We've got so many great comments. People have been enjoying it. So just to recap for anybody who has joined us late, we have been chatting with R.H. Herron, whose new book, Hush Little Baby, just came out yesterday. And Sara Shepard has been kind enough to chat with us. Her most recent release is Reputation, which is in paperback, but she has Safe in My Arms, which is coming out on July 27th. I've dropped a link if you want to pre-order that. You can pre-order that from Murder by the Book. And Sarah, next time, if you find yourself in Houston, or if you want to come to Houston, open invitation, let us know.
Gosh.
We would love to see you.
I'm so excited. And I'm going to get the subscription box.
Awesome.
I don't know which one yet, but...
and if you go to the website, it'll actually for the each individual ones, it'll kind of give you an idea of kind of what we've picked previously, so you can kind of see what they were.
Cool.
And so for everybody watching, if you missed any part of tonight's chat, you will be able to rewatch it on Facebook and YouTube once we're done. Or if you know somebody who's picked up the books and they want to hear the chat, you can share those links. Sometimes YouTube takes just a little bit longer to get the encoding done before it's up. But while you're there, we hope you will check out all of the other great author events that we have done. We have pretty much any mystery subgenre and most mystery authors represented in there. So there's lots of great content if you just want to go wild and watch hours and hours of author interviews. I don't know what else I'm supposed to say. This has been so much fun tonight. Rachel, I'm so sad that we don't actually get to go have Tex-Mex after this.
I know, that's the best. Oh, it's the best. And please consider yourself hugged. And I'm really glad that I got to see your gorgeous husband before we started rolling too.
Me too. And I'm so glad we got to be a part of launching this book out in the world. As I said before, it's so fantastic. Sarah, you were in for such a treat. It's just, you're going to hit this. Be warned, you're probably about the point where you're going to not want to put it down. So make sure that you've got time to inhale the rest of it.
Okay. Sarah, thank you for your awesome questions and just being here and finally connecting after many years of knit blogging.
Yeah, and I'm just gonna reach out. Yeah, and just let you know, because I'm sure I'll finish it in the next couple of days, and hopefully you won't be off to New Zealand by then. So
no, 10 more weeks. 10 more weeks.
Oh,
thank you.
okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, we've got to sell the house, which is why
for some reason I thought it was 10 days. I was like, ooh.
That would be even worse. I think 10 days out, I'll probably be ready, but right now I am not ready.
Okay. All right.
Did I mention that I went out of the house and went around the world doing things right before this, and then I looked down and I was wearing 2 different shoes. I like in a rom-com. This has never happened before. So yeah. Thank you everyone. And thanks for everyone for showing up and watching and listening.
And I also wanted to send out a huge thank you to Jamie at Dutton for helping us get this up. We adore Jamie, and I saw that she was watching earlier, so we wanted to give a big shout out to Jamie. She's one of our favorite people to work with. So Jamie, thank you for helping us get this set up. So y'all have a great night. Rachel, go swim.
Yes, swim.
Okay, bye everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.